Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has given the Department of State Services a 7-day ultimatum to release suspended Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele or charge him to court. The DSS had arrested Emefieles on the 10th of June, a few hours after his suspension as governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Emefieles has now spent more than 1 month in the custody of the security agency without prosecution, leading to many Nigerians complaining about the contravention of the rule of law. Emefieles, like the suspended chairman of the EFCC, Abdulrasheed Bawa, also awaits being charged to court weeks after detention. What is the significance of this to the rule of law in Nigeria, especially as previous governments have also been accused of similar actions? Now, joining me tonight for this discussion is Emefieles, a constitutional lawyer, joins us from Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos. So, one welcome to you, Evans, and thanks for joining us on Politics HQ tonight.
Thank you. Good evening.
Now, Evans, the recent court order to release Godwin Emefiele, the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, has garnered significant attention. Could you provide us with a deeper understanding of the circumstances surrounding his suspension and subsequent arrest?
Well, the circumstances surrounding Emefieles' suspension were issues and allegations that have to do with his conduct in office, the abuse of office, and the DSS have laid several allegations even when the former president was still former President Buhari was still president of Nigeria. One of which were that he was sponsoring terrorism and other many allegations that were leveled against him. Now, since he was arrested, he has been in the custody of the DSS. Contrary to our laws, a suspect who is arrested is presumed innocent until the contrary is proven. That's our law. And even when a suspect is arrested, it is expected that the law enforcement agency will charge him to court, within 24 hours or at most within 48 hours, where there's no court within 40 kilometers from where he's being kept in custody. So in this case, the DSS have violated the fundamental rights of the citizen, and that is Emefieles, for not charging him to court within the stipulated time allowed by the Constitution, and then for keeping him in custody in perpetuity in the name of investigation and all that. No matter the allegation, no matter the offense committed, the law enforcement agencies are expected to apply their investigation and their action within the bounds of law. So where they have not been able to do that as a result of their flagrant disregard to the rule of law, then Emefieles, the suspect, will file an action in the court of law to challenge why his fundamental right is being infringed upon, and that's exactly what Emefieles did. Now, the court have ruled, that he should be released unconditionally or charged to court with immediate effect. And that's exactly what should be done. Is either he's released or he's charged to court, because the time limits within which he ought to have been charged to court have long lapsed, and he's still being kept in perpetuity.
Now, Emefieles, the court's ruling emphasized the breach of fundamental rights through any form of detention, whether it is short or long. You did mention in your opening submission that there are, concerns about his involvement in terrorism and all of that. What do you make of this? How does this ruling by the court reflect the judicial system's commitment to upholding the rule of law in Nigeria? And don't you think, some cases are different from the others, and you might need some more time to interrogate your suspect?
No, the court has made the right decision by making that ruling. to the federal, because that decision was based on the rule of law. So let the DSS also respond according to the rule of law, and that is to either charge him or to court or to release him. The truth is that the suspect is also a citizen. The suspect is a citizen, and because he's a citizen, he also has certain rights. The same rights that the operative of the DSS enjoys, the same rights the suspect in their custody should enjoy. It should be based on law. You see, as far as the law is concerned, the allegations are nothing. They are nothing until they have been proven by the court of law. So they will remain an allegation, and that is why the law says in section 36, 35 and 36, that
yeah, but Barrister Emefiele, if I may come in here, the DSS, they've claimed that they had lawful grounds to detain Emefieles, citing an order from the Chief Magistrate's courts. What's your take on this, considering the history of questionable detentions by this agency?
Yes, if they have an order to detain him from the magistrate court, and there's an order from the high court, okay, to charge him or release him, the order from the high court will ordinarily vacate the order of the magistrate court. Okay, because it's an inferior court, and the motion about the process, the court process under which the court delivered this judgment, the lawyers who filed the motion would have taken into consideration such. Even though the DSS will not release such order that is got from the magistrate court to the lawyers of Emefieles, at some point, his lawyers were not even allowed to see him, and his family members were not allowed to see him. Okay, which is not right under the law. Now, the order of the superior court would vacate the order of an inferior court, and that is what it is. It's in the interest of the DSS to charge him to court. They have spent sufficient time in whatever investigation it is they have done. By now, it should have been arraigned, okay, and the DSS should go further to prove. I mean, the DSS is even expected to hand him over to the police because the DSS does not even prosecute, okay? That's another angle to it. The DSS is supposed to hand him over to the police, and I don't know why they have not done that. They do not actually have the prosecutorial power, okay? It is the police that do. And they should do that as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much, Barrister Emefiele. I'd like to bring our second panelist into the conversation, Chike Chude, Public Affairs Analyst and a member of the Joint Action Front. Chike, a warm welcome to you and thanks for joining us on Politics HQ.
Thank you.
Now, Chike, I'm sure you're very familiar with the political and judicial terrain in Nigeria, and this is not the first time that a court will make a pronouncement against the DSS and other institutions of state, and then we wait with bated breath to see if they would obey this order or not. Now, how could this court ruling impact the DSS detention practices moving forward? Are we looking at a potential game changer here with the court ruling that, charge him to court or release him, the former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele? What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, I think this goes beyond the DSS. Obviously, you have the DSS as an institution of state that should be subject to the laws of the country, and that should not act, because we have seen in the past few years, especially in the 8 years of the former president, the abuse of power by the DSS. If you remember what happened with Shawore in court, in a sitting court, even in the heydays of a military dictatorship, we did not have that kind of, we never had that kind of a situation where even the military showed that level of disdain and contempt for the courts. The military never did that. So there was a lot of erosion of values in respect for the rule of law, especially under the Buhari administration. It's not as if all the other administrations before 2015 also were completely guiltless, but I think it reached the zenith under the Buhari administration. And so what is going on with Emefiele and Bawa also, the former EFCC boss, is reminiscent of what the Buhari administration did with Dasuki, Sambo Dasuki, the former, National Security Advisor. Yes, and ultimately at the end of the day, nothing happened to Dasuki. He was let go, even though people that he had mentioned, or then were arrested and then taken to court. People like Olisametu, who all claim that they collected money from Sambo, but nothing happened to Sambo. And that is also reminiscent of the favoritism shown by Muhammadu Buhari when he was head of state, then the 53 suitcases and all that. But right now, getting to the present, it is going to rub off, whether we like it or not, badly on the Tinubu administration, because even when you have an errant institution of state that is going AWOL, then you have somebody who says as president that he believes in democracy. And so democracy gives the courts the right of, prominence, or gives the courts, adequate prominence within the polity to intervene when things are going, wrong. And the judge made it very clear today that you cannot keep Emefiele ad infinitum. You do not have that right. You do not have that power. So if you have issues against him, you take him to court. If you fail to take him to court, then you release him. And so what we are seeing is an abuse, of the rule of law right now with regards to Emefiele and Bawa also. Because the right they have absolute, fundamental rights. And so when they misbehave, for instance, or they act outside the confines of the law, and the law has to take its course, then the law must follow a process.
Yeah, but
that's why you can see
Chike, sorry to butt in here. People would also say that, these people are not so innocent. And the man in question, you mentioned Bawa, the erstwhile EFCC chairperson, has violated several court orders. So why should he care about following constitutional orders? Because when he was in office, there was wanton disregard for court orders.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it is good that you also gave that that example. But that somebody has done wrong, and then when a wrong is being done to that person, you say, well, after all, he has done it. He didn't obey court orders, therefore he serves him right. It's not about him. It's about the country. It's about erosion of our values and lack of respect for the rule of law. That he did not show respect for the rule of law when it was his turn. It's not a given that therefore we must also do the same thing to him. The countries don't work that way. The law does not work that way. A violation is a violation. That it's as simple, as that. And besides, if you say, yeah, they are not so innocent with regards to non-obedience of court orders, I would agree with you. But don't forget, ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're talking about innocence in general terms with regards to whatever the government is accusing them of, the law, as we know it today, says that they are innocent. That it is only the government that can prove, they are traducer that can prove that they are guilty of the offenses for which they are, accused of. So you cannot be the complainant, you cannot be the prosecutor, you cannot be a judge in your case. That is why we have, separation of powers. It is critical because liberty and freedom suffers terribly when you do not allow, when the various institutions of state are not allowed to act independently, and when they take decisions that is within their constitutional mandate, you decide because you're the executive to obey it in the breach. So that is absolutely wrong.
Thank you, Chike. I'd like to bring back Barrister Emefiele into the conversation. Two questions here. Barrister, considering the impact of Emefiele's detention and suspension, what impact will it have on the independence of the central bank, and how do you anticipate this case will shape the future functioning and decision-making of the Central Bank of Nigeria? And also, the court order stipulates that the Department of State Services, the DSS, must release Emefieles within 1 week. What potential consequences could the DSS face if they fail to comply with this order, because we've seen them disregard court orders in the past?
Well, let me take the first part. The impact on this on independence of the CBN is that the Constitution says that all persons and authorities, okay, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be subjected to the laws of this country. Okay? So the institution called CBN is not bigger than the law. Even the DSS itself is not bigger than the law. So the law is what the law is. Now, the allegations against the CBN, the CBN governor, former CBN governor, they will remain allegations, okay, until they are proven. It is the law that suspicion, however intense, cannot take the place of evidence. Okay? Because I heard when you are saying it looks like these guys are actually guilty of these things. No man has the right to say so, that somebody is guilty of an allegation, except the court of law. And even if the suspicion is so tough, even if suspicion is so intense, it cannot take the place of evidence. So the law enforcement agency will still need to prove their case. They will prove their case on the strength of their case and not on the weakness of the defendant's case. Okay? So the implication here is that as an independent institution, that institution is subjected to law, must obey the laws of the land. Then, as to the implication of the DSS, as to if they decline or disobey court order, what it means is that an action will be brought against the DSS for contempt of court. Okay? And that action will mean to commit the leader of the DSS to prison for disobeying court order. Remember that even Bawa, the former EFCC, suspended EFCC Chairman, also at some time when he disobeyed court order, there was an action against him for contempt, and there was a pronouncement to that effect before he went on appeal. Okay? So the same thing will apply here too. Whoever is involved in that infraction, if the DSS refuses directly or indirectly to obey the orders of court, there will be a contempt proceeding. The unfortunate thing about the rule of law as presently constituted in Nigeria is that the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, did incalculable damage to the rule of law in this country. Incalculable damage. And the effect of this damage has spiraled out. That is exactly what is even affecting us currently. The issues of the rule of law have been so reduced to nothing, such that even institutions that are not even law enforcement agencies also now disobey court orders. It is the time for the judiciary to take the gavel against all persons and institutions who violate or disobey court orders to ensure that enforcement is handed down heavily on, because the judiciary and the pronouncement from the court are sacred. They are sacred and they must be obeyed. And that is what preserves the sanity of society. But when we throw all that to the wind, then we are going to be battling with so much problem. Imagine a court saying that a suspect is released, and the president will be in another corner making his own orders. The president of Nigeria has no such orders, there are no such powers to disobey the orders of court.
Thank you, Barrister Emefiele, for clearing the air on that. Just because of want of time, I'd like Chike Chude to have the last say on this as we wrap up this conversation. Now, Chike, let's talk about the choice of Lagos for the arrest. They're moving the erstwhile CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele to Abuja? Is there significance to this procedure, or is it just standard procedure? And this case also seems to have broader implications for high-ranking officials in Nigeria. In your opinion, does the ruling create a precedent for holding such officials accountable?
Let me put it this way. It does not have any implication for high-ranking individuals in Nigeria. It does not have any implication. This is about on whose side are you? So it's not for me. I do not think it's about, people wanting to apply the rule of law and all that. I'm not exactly sure because if that is the case, the man that is sitting down in the Senate as the president of the Senate has problems with the EFCC. Different, charges against him, preferred against him by the EFCC. Why did they not discharge those accusations, against him before he became the Senate president? So, somebody has said that the more things change, the more they remain the same. And so that is exactly what we are seeing. So the issue is that Emefieles fell foul of some people in the country together with Bawa. Otherwise, it's the same thing. Nothing has changed, nothing significantly. It is the same old process and so on. And then lastly, just quickly, when you are talking about the independence of about the independence of the CBN and what implication it has. Let me just say this, regardless of what, look, the late Fela Anikulapo said, look, whether it's Armed Forces Ruling Council or Supreme Military Council, it's all, name, that there's no change. It's just a name. And so it doesn't matter whether you put independent for INEC and then for CBN and the rest. The reality is that there's no independent institution of state in this country today. The politicians who are in charge are running the show, and that is just the reality. So you talk about institutions that are weak, institutions that are the beck and call of the politicians. That's what you're having. So every institution has been compromised, and so we need to do something about actually building institutions that can stand on their own, knowing that there's a loyalty to the Nigerian people and not necessarily loyalty to the people that are in power.
Thank you very much, Chike Chude, public affairs analyst and a member of the Joint Action Front, and also Evans Efele, constitutional lawyer. We do appreciate your insights and contribution to the subject. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're watching Politics HQ on News Central Television. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, the Nigerian Labour Congress has rejected the more than 500 billion naira palliative offer from the Nigerian government and has demanded an increase in the minimum wage. We'll look at this in details when we come back. Stay with us.